Do the Browns have a real shot at trading for Brandon Aiyuk? Let's talk about the trade rumors surrounding the 49ers star wide receiver and how the Browns have been linked to Aiyuk. Now, welcome into an at-home edition of the Cleveland Browns Report. I'm visiting my parents right now, so I'm in my dad's library at the moment. But I still wanted to discuss the trade rumors because they've kind of been popping up over the last 72 hours, and I didn't want to wait until I got back to the studio to break it all down with you guys. So I think a good starting point for our video today should be, let's go back to the beginning of the Brandon Aiyuk trade rumor saga, where, if you don't know, the 49ers have a 25-year-old wide receiver who was an All-Pro last year, entering the last year of his contract, and he wants an extension, right? He wants to get paid big time. And the 49ers, they have a lot of mouths to feed, right? They've got, just think about players that are currently getting paid before we talk about guys who are going to get paid next, like Brock Purdy, for example. But they just paid Deebo Samuel, right? Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Fred Warner. That's just four right there. They're making Javon Hargrave. Like, the list goes on and on. So the 49ers, at some point, can't afford to give everyone the contract they are seeking. And they've got a lot of really talented players, so they've kind of been playing this game of hardball with Brandon Aiyuk, who I think is looking to get somewhere in the $30 million range per season. Justin Jefferson makes $35 million. That's number one for all wide receivers. A.J. Brown makes $32 million. That's second. So maybe Aiyuk wants to be in between those two, and maybe the 49ers don't want to go above $29.9 million. But that's for Niners fans to worry about. Let's talk about how the Browns kind of got looped into this. So when Aiyuk began his holdout, which goes back to mandatory minicamp, that was like the first official, this is mandatory, you're not present, we have ourselves a real holdout. And it has continued into training camp. Pretty much all 31 other teams probably at least asked themselves, should we explore the idea of trading for Brandon Aiyuk? And knowing the Browns and knowing Andrew Berry, they probably had more than just like a 2-second chat in the elevator going up to their offices. Like, I'm sure they really put their heads together and thought, hey, is this a player worth pursuing? Like, they did it for Jerry Jeudy. They made that trade. They traded for Elijah Moore. They traded for Amari Cooper. So don't rule out another wide receiver trade when it involves the Cleveland Browns. But I don't think it took too long for the Browns fans, media members to go like, yeah, the Browns are probably pretty good at wide receiver. They've got Amari Cooper. He still has 1 year left on his contract. They just traded for Jerry Jeudy. Last year they traded for Elijah Moore. They drafted Cedric Tillman. Plus, they've got a lot of mouths to feed on their end as well. And this is just a very surface-level cap conversation. Not saying it can't be done. It's possible. But, Deshaun Watson, Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, a lot of offensive linemen, Petonio, Teller, Conklin, they feel like, hey, we've probably spent a lot of money. I don't know if we can swing for a $33 million a year wide receiver. Could it be done? Yes, it could be done. You could restructure contracts. You could open up cap space. You probably have to move on from Amari Cooper, which we'll get to in a moment. But theoretically, it's not impossible for the Browns to acquire Aiyuk and give him a contract that he is seeking. So, with that being said, I think we can fast forward in time to where we are now, which is after that conversation the Browns had internally about Aiyuk's available, but probably not going to make it happen. We like where we're at with our current receiving core. We don't need to give up a whole bunch of draft picks and give out a huge contract. We like what we have at the moment. Well, the Aiyuk trade rumors have really picked up steam over the last couple of days. We're well over a week, nearly 2 weeks into NFL training camp, and he still is holding out for a new deal. And the 49ers drafted a wide receiver in round 1, Ricky Pearsall. So maybe they feel a little bit more comfortable with the idea of moving on from Aiyuk, although I don't believe the 49ers have really any interest whatsoever in trading Brandon Aiyuk. But over the last couple of days, I've gotten some screenshots and some DMs of I'm hearing Aiyuk to the Browns could be a possibility. And I kind of disregarded it. I was like, I don't think it's happening. The moment the Browns, I wouldn't say reached a new contract with Amari Cooper, killed the Brandon Aiyuk trade idea, but it certainly made it a little bit more difficult for the Browns to then swap Aiyuk and Cooper, because the Browns would have just signed the 49ers up for $5 million in incentives. And maybe the 49ers aren't interested in paying those incentives. So now the 49ers go, listen, we're not interested in doing a wide receiver swap because you now put us on the hook for way more money, $5 million to pay out which we did not agree to. Like, that wasn't a contract that we gave out. So, to me, that made it a lot more difficult to do a Brandon Aiyuk, Amari Cooper swap. And anytime you talk about Aiyuk coming to the Browns, I think the conversation would have to start at Amari Cooper going back. They're not giving away Jerry Jeudy. They just traded for him. They just extended him. Amari Cooper's 30 years old. He's got 1 year left on his deal. He is the most expendable player. Elijah Moore could get dealt, but the 49ers were 8 minutes away from winning a Super Bowl last year. They're not swapping their all-pro wide receiver for, Elijah Moore. Like, they're going to want a bigger return. And not just draft capital, they still want to win right now. This isn't like some baseball team realizing they missed their window and we're selling for scraps. Like, they want to stay competitive in the NFC. And, swapping Aiyuk for Cooper, just from like a production level. Remove the age and the contract just for the yards and touchdowns you're going to get from both wide receivers in 2024. Not very far off, right? You do a blind resume, and those two receivers were not in different stratospheres last year. So I think the conversation with an Aiyuk trade would have to start with Amari Cooper going back to San Francisco. But the reason why I'm really unpacking this trade is because I'll put this tweet on screen. Cam Marino, NFL Twitter guy. I don't view him as a legitimate and real source for NFL trade rumors. He tweeted out, "Scoop. The Patriots and Browns are the front runners in trade discussions for 49ers star wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk per a league source." Like, right there I can go, I don't think there is a league source. Like, I think this could be a tweet that goes viral a little bit. No one can ever prove that I'm wrong. So, yeah, let's go with this. Both teams are offering more than $30 million. Though the Steelers are also in the mix, this should come down to the Patriots and the Browns. Aiyuk is not expected to be a 49er in 2024. If Aiyuk gets traded to the Patriots or the Browns, like, I'll eat crow. I'll be wrong. But I'll tell you right now, I don't think it's happening. I don't think it's happening. And the reason why I don't think it's happening is for a handful of reasons, actually. One, I don't think the Browns are all that motivated to trade away Amari Cooper. They just got a deal done with him to give him more incentives. Andrew Berry has talked about how important Amari Cooper is to this Browns locker room. Brandon Aiyuk is an awesome wide receiver. And maybe talent will be too much for the Browns to overlook. But I think there is some truth to the Browns are in a really good spot right now going into the season, right? Like, they come off a playoff appearance. Sure, it didn't go as well as they would have hoped in Houston, but they come off an 11-win season. They really feel like they're starting to not just build something, but to grow on what they already built. Do they really want to rock the boat? Right? Do they really want to trade Amari Cooper away, the number one wide receiver in this team's franchise? Like, in some places, I mean, sure, it's only been 2 years, but he's the only guy to have 1,000-plus yards in back-to-back seasons in franchise history. He holds a lot of records already for the Browns. Do they really want to trade away someone they really value in the locker room, that's had a really good connection with the offense, for a wide receiver that appears to be not a head case, but a little bit of a diva? I don't think Aiyuk has been the ultimate pro regarding these offseason holdout approaches. I mean, he's gone on FaceTime. He's told Jaden Daniels, they don't want me, bro. Like, there's a lot of players that are holding out this year and every year. And I don't think Aiyuk has gone about it the best way. I'm not really sure what led to him ending up in Kyle Shanahan's doghouse for the first, season and a half of his NFL career, but that happened. There's no secret about it. And he grew out of it, and players grow, humans grow, people mature, and maybe he has matured and that's behind him and we don't need to judge him based on what he did 3 years ago. But maybe he's just the same guy he was 3 years ago, but the 49ers decided he's just too talented to not put him on the field. And sure, at some point, talent is going to probably trump any concerns about a character issue. But I don't think the Browns are in a spot where they can gamble $30 million a year, at least a third-round draft pick, probably a second, though, and give away a really good receiver in Amari Cooper. Sure, you're going to have a much more longer runway with Brandon Aiyuk. He's younger. He's ascending. I mean, he was all-pro receiver in an offense that ranked 32nd in pass attempts last year. Do you understand how difficult that is? I think that would be like if Joey Chestnut won the hot dog eating contest and he grew up in a family of vegans. Like nothing around him screams, we're a passing offense. And despite that, he still was one of the top 5 receivers in football last year. So we put him in an offense that's going to be a much more pass-heavy, scheme and grouping and personnel and whatnot. He'd probably flourish. But I don't think the Browns should be rocking the boat. Maybe I'm being a little bit too conservative. Maybe I'm being a little bit too timid. Aiyuk's talented, but I like the receiver core the Browns have, and I like the overall roster the Browns have right now. If they trade for Aiyuk, I'm not going to be pissed or sad. It'll likely mean Amari Cooper goes to San Francisco, though. And I don't think the Browns need to swing that big. I don't. I think the Browns have everything they need in every single spot. The only thing they have left is, can they get good quarterback play consistently from Deshaun Watson for 17 games? That's the question. They're not a wide receiver away from winning a Super Bowl. They are a healthy quarterback away from winning a Super Bowl. Like, that's what they need. So, for that reason, I'm passing on Brandon Aiyuk to the 49ers or to the Browns. From a legitimate standpoint, as like a credible source, I don't think that's really a realistic trade outcome. And then from my own personal opinion on the matter, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't. All right, that will do it for us on our at-home edition today. I appreciate everyone for hanging out. I also appreciate every single one of you guys that turned out to our Browns Report meet and greet back on Thursday. We're going to share some pictures and whatnot when I get back into the studio and I can do more bells and whistles. But I really do appreciate everyone that came out. It was a blast. It was a huge success, and I can't wait to do it again next year.